Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to present to you the Campus Associate Dean of the Western Michigan University Thomas M. Cooley Law School, Tampa Bay campus, Jeffrey Martlew, who will provide the opening remarks and introduce the commencement speaker. Dean Martlew.
This is a happy occasion, and I'm delighted to be a part of it. We're here to recognize a group of now former students who have worked very hard to achieve something that they're going to make use of the rest of their lives, and it's appropriate that we recognize them today, but I think there's another group of people in this room that needs recognition too. I know, even though it was back in the Stone Ages, I could not have survived the, what was the word you used, torture of law school? I could not have survived that without the support and the help and the love of my wife and my parents and my close personal friends. And we got a bunch of those people here in the auditorium today. So graduates, now's the time to stand up and do a shout out for the people that have supported you. Normally we don't recognize people in the audience, but I noticed somebody as I was walking in today that I do want to acknowledge, and that's because not only has he been a strong supporter of the Tampa Bay campus of Western Michigan University Cooley Law School since we opened the campus, but even before that, Judge Salsinas, more than anybody else, I think, in Hillsborough County, has contributed to the diversity of the legal practice in Central Florida, from his position as state attorney for the 13th Circuit for 15 or 20 years, and then from the years that he served on the 2nd District Court of Appeals, and then from the fact that he's constantly in motion, still involved in the community since then. Judge Salsinas and his wife Elsa are here, and I'd like to recognize them. Judge, Elsa. Normally, at this point in the program, I would introduce President Leduc to make some remarks. President Leduc has not ever, to my knowledge, missed a commencement ceremony at Cooley since he joined the school about 1975. So if you multiply 3 graduations a year times 40 years, that tells you how many graduation ceremonies President Leduc has attended. President Leduc is here today, and he had intended to participate in the ceremony. He flew down from Michigan last night, and I got an email from him this morning indicating that he woke up with a terrific head cold today. He feels like crap. He didn't want to infect anybody. He can't talk anyhow. And so then, rather than sitting here on the stage, President Leduc is about as far as you can be away from the stage, way up in the last row in the auditorium. I can see him. I know you can't, but I wanted you to know that he's here, and I wanted you to know, whether you realize it or not, how significant a part he has played in the fact that you're here today. Don Leduc joined the faculty of Cooley Law School around 1974, I think. He served 2 separate terms as the dean of the law school, first in the 1980s and later in the late 1990s, and he was appointed both president and dean of the law school in January 2002, and he has held those dual positions since that time. President Leduc is a man of vision. Under his guidance, Cooley expanded from one relatively mid-sized law school with 1 campus in Lansing, Michigan, to the only law school in the United States that has 4 campuses in 2 states, and is now one of the largest law schools in the United States. And beyond that, the reason that there is a Tampa Bay campus is because it was President Leduc that recognized that there was a large unmet demand for legal education in the state of Florida. So it was his vision that brought Tampa Bay, and there would be no Tampa Bay campus but for the vision and the direction of President Leduc. Beyond that, he's always been a man of great insight. He had the insight to give me a passing grade in administrative law when I was a student back in around 1975. He had the foresight to offer me a position as a full-time professor with the law school about 8 or 9 years ago, I guess it was, and he's the one that had the confidence in me to come down and start the Tampa Bay campus and get things off the ground. So I personally owe a lot to President Leduc, and each of you owe a lot to President Leduc too. Thank you, Don. It's my honor now to introduce the keynote speaker. John T. Berry is the director of the legal division of the Florida Bar. Mr. Berry supervises 5 branch offices of the bar and is in charge of all lawyer regulation activities. He also supervises the Florida Bar's Henry Latimer Center for Professionalism and serves as the liaison to the Florida Supreme Court in its interaction with local judges and local bar associations. John Berry is a friend of mine. We are members of the same generation, which means that, like me, he's as old as dirt. Mr. Berry graduated magna cum laude with a BA in political science from the University of Florida in 1973. He earned his Juris Doctorate at Stetson University Law School in 1976. He began his legal career as an assistant state attorney in the 9th Judicial Circuit in Orlando, where he served from 1976 to 1983, and then moved on to become staff counsel and director of legal and management operations for the Florida Bar, where he served from 1983 to 1998. In 1998, he moved to the state of Arizona to become assistant executive director of the Arizona State Bar Association, and then came back to the University of Florida as the director of professionalism programs at the Levin College of Law. From there, John moved to the state of Michigan, where he was executive director of the Michigan Bar from 2000 to 2006, and then returned to his current position in the state of Florida with the Florida Bar in November 2006. John Berry has always had a keen interest in and has spent the majority of his career focused on the importance of lawyer ethics and professionalism. Attorney ethics and professionalism was a major focus of his tenure while he served as the executive director of the Michigan Bar. Now, I'm guessing that most of you have never been to Lansing, Michigan, so I'm going to give you a little geography lesson. Lansing is the state capital, and the state capitol building sits right in the heart of downtown Lansing. And the Cooley Law School campus, which when it opened was the only Cooley Law School campus, is 1 block directly south of the Michigan Capitol building. The State Bar of Michigan is also located 1 block directly south of the state capitol and 1 block west of Cooley Law School. And because of that connection, it was almost natural that Mr. Berry and Dean Leduc started running into each other while John was the executive director of the Michigan Bar. During that period of time, John worked closely with President Leduc and Associate Dean Amy Timmer on developing Cooley's award-winning, I'm talking nationally award-recognized professionalism programs. John has stayed in close touch with Cooley ever since then, even when he returned to Florida and 5 years before we opened the Tampa Bay campus. And coincidentally, I've known John since he was director of the Michigan Bar. At that time, I was a circuit judge in Michigan, and as happenstance would have it, I was the incoming president of the Clinton County Bar Association. And I remember reading an article in the Bar magazine about the state getting a new executive director, so I called him up out of the blue and asked him to come and talk to the bar our county bar association. And he drove 20 miles north of town without even having met me or knowing anything about Clinton County, to come and talk to our local bar association. So he's always been involved in local activities, and he's always brought a strong sense of ethics and professionalism to everything he does. For more than 15 years now, John Barry has been a true friend to Cooley Law School, and he is a true friend of mine. So it's an honor and a pleasure to introduce to you John T. Barry.